I always thought I had a good marriage. My wife, Sarah, and I were together for 7 years. We lived in a cozy little house in the suburbs, had a decent routine, and generally got along well. At least, that's what I thought. Sure, we had our moments. Sarah could be a bit bitchy at times, especially when she was stressed with work, but I chalked it up to the pressures of adult life. I worked a 9-to-5 job in marketing, while Sarah was a nurse and often came home exhausted. Recently, things had started to feel off. I noticed subtle changes in Sarah. She was spending more time at work, often coming home late, which left me feeling uneasy. When I asked her about it, she would dismiss my concerns, saying she was just swamped with patients and paperwork. I wanted to believe her because who wants to believe their spouse is cheating? But there were little things that just didn't add up. One night, after a long day, I came home to find Sarah in a terrible mood. I tried to lighten the atmosphere, but she snapped at me, telling me she was sick and needed sleep. I ended up letting her be, thinking she was just stressed and worn out. As the days went by, I felt more and more like a ghost in my own house. Sarah was always on her phone, texting furiously when she thought I wasn't looking. I tried to brush it off, but my gut was twisting in knots. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a Saturday, and I had planned a casual lunch date for us. When I woke up, I found her in the bathroom, looking pale and unwell. She insisted she wasn't feeling great and needed to stay home. I offered to make her soup, but she waved me off, saying she just needed some fresh air and would be fine. Something about that didn't sit right with me. When I went to grab groceries later, I drove past the park, our park, the one we frequented during our early days when everything was new and exciting. To my shock, I saw Sarah's car parked there. My heart raced. She told me she was sick, yet here she was, parked at the park. What was she doing? Maybe she just needed to clear her head. That thought barely crossed my mind before I parked my car further down the road and decided to find out what was really going on. As I approached the park, I kept telling myself to stay calm. Maybe she was reading a book or just enjoying the sunshine. But deep down, I started to feel the weight of dread settle in my stomach. I saw her sitting on a bench, but she wasn't alone. There was a man next to her, laughing together as if they shared inside jokes. I could hardly breathe. My mind raced with disbelief and rage. This wasn't happening. My wife was cheating on me. I watched them from behind a tree, my heart sinking with every passing second. She leaned into him, her laughter ringing in my ears like a cruel taunt. Overwhelmed with adrenaline, I stepped back and tried to process what I was seeing. This wasn't Sarah, the woman I loved, the woman who'd promised to be with me for better or worse. This was someone else entirely. I couldn't just confront her right there, not with him sitting next to her. I needed to think, I needed a plan. I drove home in a daze, the world around me blurring. I knew I had to confront Sarah, but how? What would I even say? I started to replay every moment, every conversation, every lie she had ever told. The weight of betrayal crushed down on me. I felt sick, angry, and utterly heartbroken. I needed to gather my thoughts and emotions before I faced her. I decided to wait for her to come home. Little did I know, this would be the beginning of a long, painful journey. A journey that would lead me to confront not just her, but my own feelings of trust, love, and ultimately revenge. The waiting was the worst part. I sat on the couch, staring at the wall, trying to calm the storm of emotions swirling within me. I thought about the times Sarah and I had spent together, how we used to laugh until we cried, share our dreams, and plan our future. But now all I could think about was the image of her with that man, someone who clearly meant more to her than I did at that moment. Hours dragged on, and I thought about the many times she'd lied. Excuses about late shifts at the hospital, emergencies that required her attention. I had always been the doting husband, trusting her implicitly, never questioning her. But now, in the stark light of betrayal, I realized I had been a fool. Finally, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, Sarah came home. She walked in casually as if nothing was amiss. I could see the lightness in her step, the smile on her face. Did she think I wouldn't notice? I decided to play it cool, give her a chance to hang herself with her own lies. "Hey babe, how are you feeling?" I said, trying to keep my tone light. "Oh, much better, I just needed some fresh air," she replied, tossing her bag on the floor and heading to the kitchen. I could see she was trying to act normal, but I wasn't buying it for a second. "Good to hear, you sure you're up for dinner?" I asked, leaning against the kitchen doorway, watching her intently. I was thinking we could order something. Yeah, I'm starving, she chirped, pulling out ingredients for a salad. Did you end up stopping by the park today? I asked, not ready to drop the bombshell just yet. Her hands froze for a moment and I caught a flicker of panic in her eyes. No, I was just home, remember. I told you I wasn't feeling well. Right, I replied, keeping my voice steady, but I saw your car there. Her head snapped towards me, a mixture of surprise and confusion etched on her face. What are you talking about? I saw your car parked at the park while I was out. You said you were sick, yet you were there having a good time with someone else. I could see the realization dawning on her, the color draining from her face. John, listen, it's not what you think, she stammered, desperately trying to salvage the situation. Then what is it, Sarah? I pressed, crossing my arms. Explain it to me. She opened her mouth to speak, but then closed it again, searching for the right words. I was just getting some air and I ran into an old friend. We were chatting, that's all. A friend, is that what you call him? Because you were practically sitting in his lap, and you looked pretty cozy to me. John, please, you don't understand. It was harmless. I didn't mean for it to happen. Didn't mean for what to happen. I shot back, feeling my anger flare. You didn't mean to cheat on me. You didn't mean to lie to me for weeks. How long has this been going on, Sarah? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been planning this for a while. Her face crumpled and she looked on the verge of tears. It was a mistake. A mistake. Sleeping with someone else is not a mistake, it's a choice. I interrupted, my voice rising. You made that choice and now I'm left picking up the pieces. Tears started to stream down her cheeks. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to hurt you, I swear. I felt my heart shatter, but I couldn't let her see that. Sorry doesn't cut it, Sarah. You've betrayed my trust and I don't know if I can ever get that back. She reached out, trying to touch my arm, but I stepped back, holding up my hands as if to ward her off. You've lost the right to touch me, to ask for forgiveness. We stood in silence, the weight of her betrayal hanging heavily in the air. I felt an overwhelming mix of anger and sadness. I had loved this woman, and now I felt like a stranger was standing before me. I need time to think, I finally said, my voice hoarse. I don't know what to do next. With that, I walked out of the kitchen and into the living room, leaving her there, tears streaming down her face. I could hear her muffled sobs behind me, but I couldn't bring myself to turn around. I felt broken yet strangely determined. I had trusted her completely, but that trust was shattered. As I sat down on the couch, I realized I had a choice to make. I could forgive her and try to work through this, but part of me screamed that I deserved better. I felt a fire in my gut, a need for revenge, to make her feel the pain she had caused me. I didn't know what that would look like yet, but I would figure it out. This was only the beginning. I spent the night tossing and turning, unable to shake the betrayal from my mind. The image of Sarah with that man haunted me. I replayed every moment of our relationship, searching for clues I had missed, signs that could have warned me. But all I found was denial, wrapped in layers of trust that had been shattered in an instant. Morning came too soon, and I dragged myself out of bed, my mind heavy with thoughts. I went through the motions of getting ready for work, but my heart wasn't in it. I called in sick, a fitting irony given Sarah's earlier excuse. I needed to think, to plot, and to figure out my next steps. I spent most of the day packing my living room, feeling like a volcano about to erupt. I knew I had to confront Sarah again. There were questions that needed answers. But I also felt the spark of something darker stirring within me, a desire for revenge. I wanted her to feel the same pain I was experiencing, to understand the hurt her betrayal had caused. After a long day of agonizing over my thoughts, I decided to reach out to a friend, Mike. He had been my confidant over the years and knew me better than most. I needed someone to talk to, someone who could help me process what was happening. When Mike arrived, I wasted no time diving into my story. I recounted the events of the past few weeks, from Sarah's changing behavior to the devastating confrontation. Mike listened intently, his expression shifting from concern to disbelief as I described Sarah and her affair. "Man, I'm sorry you're going through this," he said, shaking his head. "You deserve better." "Better? What's better than the life I built with her?" I replied, frustration bubbling up inside me. "I thought we were happy. We had plans, kids, a future. Now it feels like it was all a lie. You need to think about what you want moving forward, Mike said, looking me straight in the eye. Do you want to forgive her or walk away? Because whatever path you choose, you have to be ready for it. That was the crux of it, wasn't it? Forgiveness felt impossible right now, but I also knew that walking away would mean losing everything I had worked for. The thought of leaving the life I had built filled me with anxiety, but the thought of staying while feeling betrayed was worse. As we talked, the idea of revenge kept creeping into my mind, feeding off my anger and pain. I felt like I needed to show Sarah the consequences of her actions, to force her to face the reality of what she had done. You know what? I think she needs to understand what it feels like to lose something she values, I said suddenly, a plan beginning to form in my mind. Dude, I get that you're hurt, but be careful, Mike cautioned. Revenge can backfire. You don't want to go down a path you can't come back from. I know, but I can't just sit here and let her get away with this. She needs to feel the pain I'm feeling right now. Over the next few days, I began to execute my plan. I started small, subtle things to make Sarah uneasy. I began to ignore her texts and calls, leaving her to wonder where I was and what I was doing. I started going out with friends more, telling her I was busy with work or catching up with old colleagues. As I distanced myself from her, I could see the anxiety building in her. I caught her reaching out multiple times, searching for answers I was unwilling to give. I savored her confusion and distress, feeling a sense of empowerment in my control over the situation. But as the days turned to weeks, I also felt a sense of emptiness. Each time I ignored her or brushed off her attempts to connect, I felt a little more lost. Was this really what I wanted? To let my anger consume me and drive a wedge between us. Despite my internal conflict, I pressed on with my plan, determined to make her feel what I was feeling. I arranged to meet Mike for drinks one Friday night, and I shared my ideas about how to escalate things further. You could confront her with evidence, Mike suggested. Show her how much you know. It could hit her hard. That idea resonated with me. I had seen her with that man, but I wanted more than just a fleeting glance. I wanted proof that I could present to her, something that would shatter her facade and force her to confront the truth of her betrayal. The next day, I decided to go to the park again, this time with my phone in hand. I needed to capture something concrete, something that would make her squirm. As I drove there, I felt a mix of excitement and dread. What if I didn't find anything? What if I confronted her and she just laughed it off? When I arrived, I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. I parked further down the street, watching the park from a distance. Hours seemed to pass as I waited, feeling the tension build inside me. Just when I thought I might leave, I saw her car pull into the lot. My breath caught in my throat. There she was, stepping out of the car, and this time she wasn't alone. The same man was waiting for her, and as I watched them walk towards the picnic area, I felt a jolt of anger surge through me. This time, I wasn't going to just watch. I would get the proof I needed, and I would confront Sarah with it. I wasn't just the victim anymore. I was taking back control. With my phone ready, I moved closer, knowing that this moment could change everything. Whatever happened next would define the course of my life and my marriage. I felt a surge of adrenaline as I crept closer to the picnic area, my heart pounding in my chest. I had my phone ready, the camera app open, and I was prepared to capture every moment. The sight of Sarah laughing with that man made my blood boil. They were sitting close together. The way she leaned in toward him, her laughter ringing out like a cruel melody, broke my heart over and over again. As I positioned myself behind a tree, I reminded myself to breathe. This was the moment of truth. I had to get a clear shot. What if she saw me, though? The thought sent a wave of panic through me, but I quickly pushed it aside. I was done being passive. I needed to face this head-on. I watched them interact, trying to gauge how deep the betrayal ran. It looked intimate, casual, the way they shared secrets and jokes. I couldn't believe how easily she seemed to forget our life together. My fingers trembled as I focused the camera, capturing Sarah's smile, the way her hair danced in the breeze. It was the same smile that used to light up my world, and now it felt like a weapon she wielded against me. Just then they stood up, and I could see them walking toward the nearby lake, their laughter echoing off the water. I snapped a few pictures, my breath hitching in my throat. I felt like a voyeur, but the rage coursing through my veins justified my intrusion. I needed evidence, something tangible I could use. I followed them slowly, keeping my distance. They found a quiet spot away from prying eyes, and I could hear fragments of their conversation. It made my stomach turn. The man was flirting with her, and she was eating it up. I could see the way she flirted back, the playful touches that sent fresh waves of betrayal crashing over me. "Why do you even put up with him?" The man teased, nudging her shoulder with his. "Because he's safe," Sarah responded, her voice light. "But let's be honest, he's not exciting like you." That statement hit me like a punch to the gut. My mind raced. With confusion and anger, exciting. Was that what this was about? Had I become so mundane in her eyes that she needed to seek thrills elsewhere? I tightened my grip on my phone, the need to capture this moment stronger than ever. I took several more pictures, focusing on their proximity, the way she looked so at ease with him. It felt like a violation of everything we had built together, and I wanted to scream. But then something shifted. Just as I was about to take another picture, I noticed something unusual. The man leaned in closer, whispering something in her ear. Sarah's eyes widened, and then she laughed, but there was an underlying tension in her body language. I couldn't hear what he said, but it looked like he was asking her something personal. That's when a thought hit me. What if she didn't know just how much I knew? What if she thought I was still oblivious? This realization ignited a fire within me. I had all the evidence I needed, but I could also use this situation to my advantage. I made a decision. I needed to confront her, but not yet. I wanted to wait until she was completely unaware of my knowledge. I would show her the photos, make her see that I was no fool. I wanted her to understand just how deeply she had hurt me. I would turn the tables and make her sit in the pain she had caused. As they started to leave the park, I quietly slipped away, my heart racing. I needed to gather my thoughts and prepare for the confrontation that would come next. I drove home, feeling a mix of triumph and dread. I had what I needed, but I also felt the weight of my choices pressing down on me. Once home, I uploaded the photos onto my laptop, my hands shaking with anticipation as I reviewed the evidence. Each image was a dagger to my heart, but they were also my armor. I composed myself, rehearsing what I would say to Sarah when I confronted her. I wanted to be calm, collected, and unyielding. Later that evening, Sarah returned home and was surprised to see me sitting at the dining table, my laptop open in front of me. She greeted me with a smile that felt like a knife twisting in my gut. "Hey, you're home early. How was your day?" she asked, brushing her hair behind her ear. "More productive than you can imagine," I replied, keeping my tone even. "We need to talk." Her expression faltered, and I could see the hesitation in her eyes. "About what?" "About you and your friend," I said, leaning forward, my eyes locked onto hers. "John," I cut her off, feeling the anger rise once more. "No excuses. I have something you need to see." I pulled up the photos, each image displaying her betrayal for all to see. "Here you are having a wonderful time while I'm left in the dark. Care to explain?" As the pictures loaded, Sarah's face drained of color, and I watched her expression shift from confusion to horror. "John, please, that's not what it looks like." She stammered, her voice faltering under the weight of the evidence. "Then what is it, Sarah? Because it looks pretty clear to me. You chose to be with him instead of being honest with me." She opened her mouth, searching for words, but I could see her scrambling. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. It was a mistake." "A mistake? You think that's all this is? You think you can just brush it off as a simple mistake?" As the confrontation unfolded, I felt a mix of satisfaction and sadness. I wanted her to be remorseful, to understand the gravity of her actions, but I also felt the painful reality of what this meant for us. I was no longer the passive partner. I was taking control of my narrative, and it felt both empowering and devastating. I was ready to see how far she would go to save our marriage, or if she would simply run away, leaving me to pick up the pieces. The tension in the room was palpable as Sarah stared at the photos, her face a mix of shock and denial. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. I watched her closely, looking for any hint of remorse or awareness of the damage she had done. Instead, I saw a woman cornered, desperately trying to salvage a crumbling facade. "John, please. You don't understand the whole story." She finally blurted out, her voice trembling. "What do you mean?" I snapped, my anger flaring again. What more is there to understand? You were with him. You lied to me for weeks about being sick while you were out with someone else. I know how it looks, but I swear it wasn't like that. I was just confused, okay? Our marriage has been so monotonous. She looked at me, pleading with her eyes for understanding. I just wanted to feel alive again. The confession struck me like a slap. Monotonous? Is that your excuse for cheating? I felt my heart pounding, wrestling with the hurt and betrayal. You didn't come to me and talk about it. You didn't try to find solutions. You went behind my back instead. John, I was scared. I didn't want to hurt you. I thought I could handle it on my own. Her voice cracked, revealing a vulnerability that only deepened my anger. Handle it on your own, by sleeping with someone else. You're telling me the excitement of being with another man was worth risking everything we built together. I leaned forward, my fingers digging into the table. What were you thinking? I don't know. I thought it would be a one-time thing and that I could just move on. But it got out of hand, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. You thought wrong, Sarah. I shot back, my heart heavy with disappointment. You shattered my trust. Every moment I've spent with you feels like a lie now. Do you realize the gravity of what you've done? Tears streamed down her face as she shook her head. I never meant for it to come to this. I love you, John, I do. I was just lost. There was desperation in her voice, but it sounded hollow, like a last-ditch effort to cling to something that was already slipping away. Love, is that what you call this? You put your selfish desires above everything we built. Love doesn't go out looking for excitement in someone else's arms. It fights for what it has. My voice rose, fueled by the pain and betrayal. She took a step closer, her hands trembling. What do you want me to do? I'll do anything to make it right. I'll end things with him. I swear, the sincerity in her voice was hard to gauge. Part of me wanted to believe her, to hope that we could salvage what remained. But the other part of me screamed that this was a pivotal moment. I had to decide if I could forgive her or if it was time to walk away for good. Anything. I challenged, my heart pounding. You think it's that easy? Look, I don't even know if I can trust you anymore. You've crossed a line that's not easily erased. I may need time to figure out what I want. I'll give you time, I promise. She pleaded, her voice rising with desperation. I'll show you I can change. Just please don't walk away from us. The thought of losing her was painful. This was a woman I had loved deeply, and the idea of throwing everything away felt wrong. But could I ever see her the same way again? The trust had been shattered, and I couldn't just ignore that. No, I won't be swept away by empty promises, I said, the conviction in my voice unwavering. You have to understand that this isn't just about me or you. It's about the damage you've done to our relationship. You need to realize what you've lost, Sarah. Please, she whispered, her voice breaking. I can prove it. I'll cut him off completely. I'll do whatever it takes to make this work. I can't lose you. As I looked into her tear-streaked face, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't anticipated: compassion. Maybe I could still find it in my heart to forgive her, but I needed to see true change. Fine, I said cautiously, but you have to understand that this will be a process. You need to show me that you're committed to rebuilding what you've broken. This isn't just about words anymore. I need actions that prove you mean it. I will, she exclaimed, hope dawning in her eyes. I'll do anything. I'll go to counseling. I'll talk to you about everything. Just please give me a chance. All right, I replied, the weight of my decision heavy on my shoulders. But if I see anything that even resembles the dishonesty you've shown me, I'm done. No second chances after that. A sense of relief washed over her, and she nodded fervently. Thank you, John, thank you for giving me a chance. But deep down, I knew this would be a long and painful road. Trust couldn't be rebuilt overnight, and I had no idea whether I had made the right choice. I felt torn between my heart and my head, balancing the desire for reconciliation against the fear of being hurt again. As the night wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing on a precipice. There was no turning back now. I would either rebuild our marriage or watch it crumble completely. Either way, I was done being a passive participant in my own life. I would carefully navigate this path and, if necessary, prepare for what lay ahead, whatever that might be. The journey wasn't over, it was just beginning. The days that followed our confrontation were a whirlwind of mixed emotions. I felt like I was riding a roller coaster, swinging from hope to skepticism. Sarah was putting in the effort. She was determined to win back my trust. She started attending counseling sessions, which she claimed were helping her understand her motives and the reasons behind her actions. I was cautiously optimistic but remained on high alert. At first, it was hard to believe the sincerity behind her actions. She was extra attentive, planning little surprises, and trying to engage me in conversations about our feelings. I appreciated the effort, but a part of me was still deeply wounded and hesitant to let myself fully believe in this renewed commitment. I found myself analyzing every gesture, every word, searching for signs of deceit. One evening, after a week of Sarah's new behavior, we sat on the couch together watching a movie. I could feel the warmth of her body next to mine, and for a moment I allowed myself to lean into that comfort. But just as quickly I pulled away, reminding myself of the betrayal that lingered just beneath the surface. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. "Yeah, just tired. It's been a long day," I replied, forcing a smile, not wanting to burden her with my internal struggle. The truth was, I felt emotionally exhausted. I wanted to believe in our marriage again, but every time I looked at her, I was reminded of the pain she had caused. I realized then that healing wasn't going to be linear. There would be good days and bad, and I had to learn to navigate this new dynamic between us. As weeks turned into months, I began to see small shifts in our relationship. Sarah was more communicative, expressing her feelings openly, which was a step in the right direction. We talked about what had led her to stray, and while it was painful to hear, I appreciated her honesty. She spoke about feeling trapped in the routine of our lives and how she had sought excitement elsewhere. "What I did was unforgivable," she admitted one night, tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry for hurting you. I just didn't know how to express my feelings at the time." Her vulnerability struck a chord within me. I recognized that we both had a role to play in the state of our marriage, and I had my own fears and insecurities to address. We resolved to work on our issues together, opening up communication lines that had once been shut tight. Still, the road to rebuilding trust was fraught with challenges. There were moments when I would react to something innocuous, feeling a flare of jealousy or insecurity. Each time, Sarah would remain patient, reassuring me of her commitment. She would remind me that she was with me and that she was willing to put in the work necessary to heal. As time passed, I found myself cautiously optimistic. We were still together, navigating the fallout of her infidelity, but we were doing it as partners. The pain didn't disappear, but it began to transform into something manageable. We learned to lean on each other, to communicate our needs without resorting to deceit. Eventually, I reached a point of acceptance. The affair had changed everything, but it also forced us both to confront our vulnerabilities and communicate more openly than we ever had before. We started to rediscover the love that had initially brought us together, albeit with a new understanding. I still had my guard up, and I knew it would take time to fully heal. But I realized that love isn't always about perfection. It's about weathering the storms together and coming out the other side stronger. One evening, as we sat together on the porch watching the sunset, I turned to Sarah. "I never thought I'd say this, but I think I'm ready to move forward," I said, my heart racing. "Really?" she asked, her eyes wide with hope. "Yeah, I can't promise it'll be easy, but I want to try," I replied. She smiled, a genuine smile that made my heart swell. "Thank you, John. I won't let you down again. I promise to keep working on myself and our marriage." As we sat there, watching the sky change colors, I felt a flicker of hope. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I had faith that we could rebuild. This experience had taught me that relationships are not just about the good times. They're also about resilience, growth, and the willingness to confront our flaws. No matter what life throws at us, we have the power to choose how we respond. In that moment, I knew I was ready to navigate whatever came next together.